Welcome to College Recruiting Unlocked, the game behind the game. I'm Coach Spree, and if you're an athlete or a parent trying to figure out recruiting, I want you to listen close because this show is where we expose what's really going on, the mistakes, the myths, the moves that actually get athletes in front of college coaches. No fluff, no guessing, just real strategy and real stories. And today, we're going behind the curtain with someone who's seen it from both sides as a high school coach and now as a certified national scout, helping athletes get recruited the right way. Coach Skimbo, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Coach. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So let's dive into it from the sidelines to scouting. You've been in the trenches as a high school coach. Now you're on the recruiting side of things. What has that transition, been like for you?
Oh, it's been very, very exciting. Coaching, I've just got to kind of see my kids and who we're playing. But now I'm getting contact with people across the country, not just football, track, but some softball players, basketball players. And it's been real fun seeing how they tell me how their school does stuff, how their state does things, because every state has different rules for high school sports and everything. So it's been pretty exciting.
Awesome. So what's something you saw as a coach that made you realize, most athletes are doing the recruiting thing wrong?
Oh, yeah. I would say grades. They think, hey, I'm good. Doesn't matter what I do in the classroom. And I've seen it a lot. A college shows up, they like the kid, and then they ask for the transcript, and they just flat out tell the kid, I'll get fired if I bring this back to my coach because it's too low. Not taking their classwork serious, not taking their training serious, nutrition, sleeping right, eating right. That's like legal cheating, because so many kids don't do it, so that's been a thing. And then the myth of, hey, if I just play hard, they'll find me. That's out the wayside, especially now because they'd rather invest in a 20-year-old transfer than a 17-year-old high school kid. So just waiting, that's not going to work. Not going to
work. Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about the truth that most coaches won't say. So let's get real for a minute here. So what are high school coaches not telling athletes about recruiting?
Oh, man. Probably that sometimes the recruiter might not be telling you everything. Like you're one of 20 guys. They might say you're number one on their list, but really you're one of 20, and they're just waiting to see what happens, and the fact telling them just play hard, send your film out. That's all you need to do. Already said it. That's gone by the wayside, and the rules are changing every day. So if you don't have a strategy, you don't have a game plan, just like coaching, then you're going to get left behind,
Absolutely. I could have said that better myself. So athletes sitting back, waiting on their coach, listen, that's a mistake. Yeah. That's a huge mistake.
Oh, so definitely a mistake there. And parents thinking it's the coach's job. They got 20, 80 kids, maybe another 80 in junior high, coaching multiple sports. They can help a little bit, but that's not their priority, right. And so if they just think all they got to do is rely on coach, they're missing a huge piece of the pie. Huge piece of the pie. And waiting too, like you said. If they wait till their senior year, might be too late.
Yep. You're right. Now that you're evaluating athletes, what separates the ones who get attention from the ones who get ignored?
I think right away, having a good game film, highlight tape, having those plays right away that pop, those first 2-3 plays, they got to be your best ones. They got to get the coach's attention. And having a highlight tape that's too long, that's going to turn some coaches off. You got maybe 90 seconds. So you got to get your stuff out there in 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. If you're offense, defensive guy, make 2 different ones. Make one that has your special teams highlights, make one that has your defense and all that, and then make one that has all the good stuff together. Or if you're savvy enough, start a YouTube page, post the longer things on the YouTube page, and make sure that's in your social media, because that's a lot of recruiting gets done via social media nowadays, probably 90%, I bet.
Right. Absolutely. That's some solid information right there, Coach. So, what's an immediate red flag when you look at an athlete? What's a red flag for you when you look at an athlete?
If I can get there early enough and I'm watching them warm up, body language, and then body language in the game. Like, how do they react when something good happens? Are they celebrating with their team? Things like that. Do one of their teammates makes a good play? Are they running over there ready to congratulate? How do they react when something bad happens? How do they react when the ball's not near them? What is that saying? How hard you play is how close you are to the ball at the end of the play. Or I know I probably got that quote totally wrong right there, but just seeing their body language when something goes bad. And if there's somebody on the sideline throwing a temper tantrum, maybe throwing that helmet off, that's a red flag to me. And then I start looking to see, okay, what's their parents acting like right now? Because colleges are investing money, they're getting the kid, but they're getting the whole family.
Right.
They're going to get the whole family. So they're going to, so parents are getting recruited too.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on that.
There's a lot of people realize
that.
Yeah, they don't get it. It's like you're a whole package, not just because you can play well and everything, but you're the whole package.
Yep. So let's dive into some of the biggest recruiting mistakes right now, because recruiting has changed. There's no need to talk about what it used to be. We have to talk about what it is and what it's going to be. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes in recruiting right now. If you had to call it out as far as what are the top mistakes athletes are making right now, what would they be?
I think number one is waiting too long.
Ooh.
Not getting started soon enough. And I know sometimes kids mature a lot later, so maybe they think they don't have a chance. But if it's somebody that has some ability and has the love for the game, the sooner the better. If you're waiting till late, like right now, juniors, you're waiting now, unless you put some phenomenal camp numbers up, you're probably not going to be at the school, your dream school. You're going to be in that next tier right now, but waiting too late, not taking class serious, not getting in the right camps, just going to a big showcase because there's 40 schools there. Well, if say you're a freshman, they don't know who you are coming up from 8th grade. You know what I mean? Unless you're from a big metro area that put up some phenomenal junior high numbers, they don't have a clue who you are. And you're just another dude out there. And like, unless you throw up some ridiculous 40 time or ridiculous vertical, they don't know. They might, they're a small fish in a big pond. Maybe they need to start at a smaller, local camp and kind of build a reputation up a little bit, or get on a good 7-on-7 team, something like that. But yeah, starting too late, not getting in the right camps, grades, not taking training serious, and talking to some kids. Since I've been doing this recruiting deal, there's still a lot of schools that don't have the money to have like a weight room, really, right, or somebody dedicated. So they're kind of missing out, or they're on their own, or they're at the YMCA, or so trying to get a good trainer or something too. And like I said, nutrition, different things like that.
Yeah, you're dropping some nice gems here that I hope our listeners are taking notes on to help them with their recruiting. So now, and while they're making those mistakes, what's happening behind the scenes with coaches during this time?
They're just they're going to the next guy. It's next man up, especially if you're a tweener. If you're a tweener and you don't got your ducks in a row, they're going to go to the next person. Two guys are exactly the same. They're going to look at grades. And if you're somebody who's been sloughing, they're going to take the good grade guy because they can't risk somebody flunking out of school and affecting their scholarship numbers. It's too big of a business.
Wow. So let's dive into what winning athletes do differently. We've talked about the mistakes, we've talked about some of the myths, but let's talk about what winning athletes do differently. So let's flip it.
Okay.
What are the athletes doing right that are actually getting them recruited?
Oh yeah. They got a social media presence, whether it's Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube pages, even, things like that. I've heard even TikTok. Now people are posting stuff. But for recruiting purposes, Twitter's where it's at. I mean, coaches, they're going to go look at somebody live with an assistant coach or whoever's riding. He's scanning Twitter. He can watch 90 guys in that hour drive, and like, hey, what about this guy? We need to pull over, or on the plane. They got a great social media presence. They're taking care of business in the classroom. They're involved in other things. They're not just, I'm a basketball guy, I'm a football guy. They're probably like football, track, basketball, track, or basketball, baseball. They're doing multiple things, especially like if they're a serious football guy, they probably need to be running track.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They need that FAT time. That FAT time don't lie. On film, you might not be able to tell, competition wise and stuff. But those actual speed times and jumping high, I mean, if you can jump high, you can jump high. You can run fast, you can run fast. But yeah, they're taking care of business in the classroom. They're involved in stuff at school, whether it's student council, FHA, FCCLA, all that kind of stuff, debate club. They're playing multiple sports, maybe involved in their youth group at church. They're doing other things to, build their resume, because that's what it is. It's a resume. It's just like applying for a job. You got your, like you're a coach, you got all your coaching stops, and then you got your teaching stuff, so they got their athletic stuff. Now they got all their hobbies, all their extras to set themselves apart. And the good ones, they're doing that stuff. They might even be running a business. We got one kid, he's running a whole stinking business right now as a senior that he's had, and it's like, golly.
Wow.
And he has it going on.
That's some good stuff. So with that, would you say recruiting is more strategy based than talent now?
I would say strategy based. Obviously, talent probably gets the eyes on you first, but it's strategy. You got to be able to set up emails, the email a coach, like tell them, hey, I'm going to be at such and such camp, coach, that you're going to be at, and you got to make sure, get there early, get your stuff, and then go find that coach you emailed and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I sent you that email in my highlight tape. I just wanted to come meet you. That's something right there, because they might only know you from the tape. Now, it's like, okay, that's Jim from Gainesville, wide receiver. He's probably going to be watching me now, thinking about that. My mind just went blank.
That's all right. No, this is good stuff. So we're going to do something different on this show today, right? And what that is, we're going to do a rapid fire session, right? So quick answers, just shoot them out. I'll shoot a question out. You shoot the answer out. So here we go. First one. One thing every athlete needs to fix today.
Oh, speed. Got to get faster. Doesn't matter if you're football, track, golf. The faster you are, the better you are.
Woo, love it. Speed. So next one. Most overrated part of recruiting.
Oh, man. I'm going to say the most overrated part is the division you play at. I've coached 2A through 7A, 2A, 3, so from 200 kids in high school to 2,500, 3,000 kids in high school.
Mm.
And I've seen some at the 4A, 5A level, they get overlooked because they say, well, you don't play big enough competition. And like, well, crud, we got 1,000 kids in our school. How big do we need to get to play? This kid just won MVP of every camp he went to. So I think the division you play at, and also sometimes coaches do get hung up in the measurables, especially the bigger schools, because their job's on the line. If they mess up on a 6'4" O line, okay, but if they bring in a 6-foot O line and mess up, they might lose their job over that one.
Yep. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, size matters. It absolutely matters, and especially the higher the level you get to, there's a metric you have to meet, and it's just what it is, right? And a lot of families don't understand. Trying to fight through that is not where you need to go. I mean, go where you want it. Go where you want it. And with the transfer portal these days, you can possibly get to where you want to be through going where you want it and performing. So we talked about what's overrated. So let's talk about what's underrated. So what's the most underrated part?
I think underrated is a kid who just he makes plays, does the right thing all the time, but he's tweener. You know what I mean? He's a tweener. He's not a lineman. Might be a little too slow to be a fullback, but he just makes plays. And has the grades, has the ACT score, has all the other stuff, but he maybe doesn't meet the size, but he makes plays. There's something to be said about kids that make plays and kids that come from winning programs. Because if you've been winning, you know how to win.
Yep,
you just do.
Coaches love winners. Coaches love winners. I mean,
That's
you can't. It's hard to lose with a team full of winners. So
that's true. Yeah.
So last one: film or stats? Which matters more?
Oh, film. Stats can lie. Some of that is because who's keeping track of the stats? Is it so-and-so's mom in the stands? Is it that 8th grader whose best friend's the junior free safety? So while he's taking stats, at free safety has 17 tackles a game, and then you look at film, you're like, that dude's only making 5. But yeah, film. I like to say the eye in the sky don't lie. It's gonna show you doing great. It's gonna show you if you're sloughing off.
Absolutely. No, good stuff. So that's the end of our quick fire, our rapid fire. But what we do like to do on all of our shows, we like to drop some gems for our listeners, for our athletes, for our parents, that they can use in recruiting. That's what this show is about. We pull back the curtain. We really pull back the curtain. We give the truth about the game behind the game. So gem drops. So our gem drops for the day is number one is, if coaches can't find you, they can't recruit you. I mean, that's a simple gem drop. It sounds like something so simple, but it's so true. If coaches can't find you, they can't recruit you. I don't care how good you are, right? I don't care how good you can be, but if they don't know about you, they don't know about you. The second one is, talent doesn't get you seen, exposure does, right? And that's another one. That's a tricky one there. Talent doesn't get you seen, it's exposure that does. And all it means is the old myth of play hard, they'll find you. That's out the door. Now, are kids being found that play hard? Yeah, there's some kids that are still being found, but there's so many more that aren't being found because they don't have the right exposure plan. Another gem is, posting highlights is not a recruiting plan. Let's just get that clear. Yes, you want to post your highlights. You want to post them on all your social accounts, but that is not a plan. That is not a that is part of a strategy. Excuse me. That's not a plan. It's just part of a strategy, a small part of a strategy. But that strategy, a full strategy will get you, a full plan will get you in front of the right coaches. And then our last gem is, the athletes who win treat recruiting like a job.
Mm-hmm.
The athletes that win treat recruiting like a job. You should be spending a certain amount of time each and every day building your recruiting plan, working your recruiting strategies, but at the end of the day is handling your recruiting. You should approach it as a job. If you're an athlete listening, your parents go to work every day. They go to work every day to support you, to keep the lights on, food on the table. If your dream is to play at the next level, treat it like a job. You have someone in your own home you can mimic this off of. Every day they go to work, every day you should go to work too to fulfill your dream. So those are our gems for the day. So please take those gems and put them in action to help you with recruiting. This isn't about hoping, right? It's about positioning. You have to position yourself now. Scouts aren't going out to games with a pen and pad recruiting. They're just not doing that anymore. If you see a scout in the stands, he or she knows exactly who they're going there for, and they're not going to waste their time speaking to anyone other than that person because they want that person to accept their offer. So that's our gems, and that is our show. So look, thanks, Coach Skimbo, for taking time out, of your day to jump on a call with me, to talk some recruiting, to pull back that curtain and give some more game behind the game. So thank you for jumping on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Coach. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So look, if you got value from this, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with others. Share it with parents of athletes. Share it with athletes who you think may need this. And if you're serious about playing at the next level, don't sit back guessing. Stop guessing. Start positioning. Start with the College Prospect Report at collegeprospectreport.com and get evaluated by real coaches for scholarship opportunities. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting seen, getting evaluated, and getting recruited. We'll see who's serious now. We'll see you next show. Bye.